Okay, you have completed the plane arch and tinted arch quizzes, and now I'm going to review the loop quiz and begin with number 1. Hopefully you recognize immediately that that is not a loop, but that it is one of our tinted arches. Number 2, ridges are starting on one side, making a curve, returning back to the same side. This is definitely a loop pattern. Again, these two are somewhat similar. There is a small area here where the ridges start, and they tend to be shorter, but this is definitely a loop pattern. The ridges are starting on the left side and rising and recurving, returning. Number 4, immediately recognizable as a plane arch, right? Number 5, same as number 4, plane arch pattern. Number 6, definitely a looping pattern. The ridges are starting on one side, rising, recurving. They're starting on the right side compared to the other loops that we had. This pattern does not, definitely does not look like a looping pattern. It's got something going on here, so that is not a loop. This is a loop pattern. This one here is not a loop pattern. That's got a number of things going on with it that are different than what we know happens with a loop. And maybe you'll remember number 10, that was a tinted arch because of this pointed ridge that points straight up. So that would be a tinted arch. Okay, let's go to number 11. Now this is definitely not a loop. It's not a plane arch nor a tinted arch, so we don't know what that is yet. Number 12, fairly clear to see a tinted arch. Number 13, again, we have that tinted arch formation. Number 14, another tinted arch. Number 15, clearly a looping pattern. (16), we have this little point here. That would be a tinted arch. 17, this is not a loop. It is not a plane arch. It's not a tinted arch. Number 18, definitely this is a tinted arch. 19, clearly a plane arch. 20, again. 20 is a plane arch. Now we're on number 21. This is not a tinted arch, it's not a plane arch, it's not a loop. Number 22, you may remember from last time, that is a tinted arch because of that point there. Number 23 is not a loop, arch, or tinted arch. Number 24, we have part of a plane arch formation, but very importantly is this looping formation here. And this is a very rare loop pattern. So this is a loop. 25 is not a loop. It's not a plane arch. It's not a tint. 26 would be the tinted arch, if you remember. 27 is definitely a looping pattern. 28 is not a loop, tint, or arch. 29, plane arch. 30 is not a loop. 31, remember, would be the plane arch, and you recognize how quickly I'm able to go through these. You're using a process of elimination, knowing what the arch, tinted arch, and loop looks like. This appears to be a looping ridge here. However, there's one on top also, so that can't be considered a loop. nor can it be a tented arch or an arch. Same way with 33, there's something else going on there. 34 would be our tented arch. 35, our plain arch. 36 can't be a loop pattern. 37 can't be a loop. 38. So these three prints cannot be loop patterns, nor do they look like arches or tented arches. Number 39. Now this, if you look very carefully, has one small looping ridge, and that would qualify this for being a loop. Number 40 is our tented arch. 41 is a loop. The ridges are starting here, rising, recurving, returning. Of course, the delta is right in this region here, the type lines, if you remember. 42 is not a loop, it's something else. 43 again is our tented arch. 44 is very interesting, but if you look very carefully, there appears to be a single looping formation right in the very center, and this could be considered a loop pattern or a tented arch. I would give it a loop first. Number 45 is not a loop. Okay, let's finish up. 46, tented arch. 47, plain arch. 48, plain arch. 49, not a loop, not a tented arch, not a plain arch. And number 50, not a loop. Okay, let's you go ahead and look at your sheet, and I'll go ahead and mark all the loops that I see. Even from this aerial picture, I think you can see the patterns. Number 2 is a loop. We'll give that an L. Number 3 is a loop. Number 4, 5, number 6 is a loop. Of course, 4 and 5 are plain arches. Number 7 is not a loop. Number 8 is a loop. 9 is not a loop. 10 is not a loop. 11, 12, and 13, they are not loops. Number 14 is not a loop. Number 15 is a loop. Number 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20, neither of them are loops, and you should recognize what those are. Number 21, 22, 23, they are not loops. Number 24 is that rare loop that we discussed. 25, 26, they are not loops. 26 should be recognized as a tented arch. Number 27 is a loop. 28, 29, and 30, they are not loops. 31, 32, 33, and 34, they are not loops. 35, 36, 37, and 38, they are not loops. 39 has one looping ridge formation, and that is a loop. 40 is a tented arch. 41 is a loop. 42 and 43 are not loops. 44, I described seeing one very small looping formation, and I gave that a loop, but it also could possibly be a tented arch. Number 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, and 50, neither of them are loops. So let's see how many loops that we have. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. From what I'm seeing here, we have 10 loops on this quiz.